time to get caught up over at Tangipahoa Parish, where a little over 2 weeks ago there was a huge explosion and fire at Smitty's Supply. As of 10 hours ago, WWL-TV out of New Orleans saying the fire is nearly contained. This is 2 weeks later, and this is where we're at. Want to welcome back to the show Pat Mashburn. Pat's been on a number of times about a number of different topics. He just happens to live downriver from Smitty's. How are you, Pat?
Doing good, but still waking up to the smell of oil and diesel every morning for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. The being downriver from Smitty's, okay. Initially, you would have thought that whatever happened in the explosion would hit the river, would run right past you all the way down to Lake Pontchartrain, and what was upriver would flush all that out.
Yes.
Tell your story about what you've been doing day to day.
Okay, so each day I've been taking pictures and water samples. Mm-hmm. What I'll do is I'll get a sample out of the water, and then I'll also dip a paper towel in the water just so you can see the color and the intensity of the oil.
Mm-hmm.
And that paper towel test has not really changed in 2 weeks. I mean, it's been like dark brown, almost black every day for the last 2 weeks.
How long did it take to get to you? Because if I remember, we talked the day after the explosion.
Right.
And I mean, it was pretty quick.
It was pretty quick. It happened like after noon on Friday. And then by Sunday morning, I could see the oil. Mm-hmm. Now, I noticed a weird smell the night, Saturday night, but it didn't even register with me that was the beginnings of it. But when I looked, I could just see oil everywhere. Yeah. It blew my mind.
And this is, I'm assuming, the same further upriver and further downriver?
Yeah, but the only thing that you really hear about is that 1 mile radius around Roseland. But you hear very little about what happens further down the river, except that they've collected X amount of gallons and they've put out booms. But I'm not seeing any evidence of any improvement where I am.
Well, here's the thing. If you're concentrated on that 1 mile radius, great. But within that 1 mile radius, you've got to shut it down. You've got to stop the leaking before you can fix anything else.
Exactly. And it was less than 48 hours after the explosion that they shut down the Tangipahoa Parish River. I think it was all the way to the mouth of Lake Pontchartrain. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you could tell that it wasn't good even before then, but it was only a matter of time before they did it. I'm just glad that they did it so quickly.
Right. Now, as far as where you're at, you're outside of that 1 mile radius, so there's very little attention being paid. But you've talked with neighbors, you've talked with other residents. What's your level of frustration right now?
It's very high because number one, I feel for the employees of Smitty's.
Yeah.
But they're eligible for unemployment. They're having food drives and
there was a job fair last week, which wasn't even their job fair. It was the prison and parole board was putting on a job fair, and Smitty's was like, "Can we tag along?" So
So what happened is, but there's been no mention of any type of relief for the people that live down the river, and we're going to have, toxic soil for years to come. We can't go canoeing, kayaking, fishing, tubing in the river. We can't do any of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, so to be fair, those are all recreational activities.
Right.
So priority-wise, I'm sure they're going to get that. But when you talk about the toxic soil into this and the dumping eventually, as this passes your house and everybody else's, the dumping into Lake Pontchartrain is a bigger thing as well.
It is. And there are people that live along the river that I know that have pre-existing health conditions because they're older. And this just exacerbates the symptoms and the pain that they feel.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk a little bit about the state of communication because this lends to y'all's frustration as well.
Yes.
In conversations off the air, and I don't want to out anything that we weren't supposed to talk about, but
sure.
You and I talked a little bit about Robbie Miller,
yes,
the president of Tangipahoa Parish.
Yes.
Give me the report on how he's been handling this from the start, and then once EPA took over.
I have to give him a lot of credit. He has been very responsive. He's always answered my concern, and I don't want to abuse the privilege of having someone's phone number, so I keep it short and to the point. But I can't say enough good things about the way that he's handled this from a personal point. I mean, he's truly a servant of the people. So kudos for him. I don't know if maybe the EPA is being as open with him as they should be.
Mm-hmm.
But they owe it to the EPA, owes it to the parish, they owe it to Mr. Miller, and they owe it to the citizens, because we have to know how to adequately protect ourselves. And here we are 2 weeks out and we have no clue.
Right. Well, I mean, the initial concern was what's in the air.
Right.
The follow-up concern of what's in the water is going to lead to the concern of what's in the ground.
Absolutely. And something else, there are airboats that have been flying up and down the river that I get, the same ones when Smitty's was in charge and now the EPA. When they are laying out the booms, what they're doing is, I even had a video of them on my Facebook page, them flying over the very booms that they laid down to stem the flow of oil. Mm-hmm. So these people are acting with reckless disregard for the very area that they're trying to protect. It's very upsetting
to see the airboats going through, just creating a wake, pushing it up on the shore.
I've got videos of every one of them, and at the tail end of the boat are identification numbers. So I got the identification numbers too.
What has the EPA done to continue reporting, to continue the level of conversation or communication that Robbie Miller started when this first happened?
Well, so after the EPA took over, the information, I don't know if I would describe it as free-flowing, but there was less of it, and all they're talking about is just the number of gallons that they've removed
mm-hmm.
from the river. Well, I probably got 1,000 gallons in front of my house. They're more than welcome to have.
We're talking with Pat Mashburn. He lives downriver from Smitty's. Getting an update on how Tangipahoa is looking from an environmental perspective a little more than 2 weeks after the explosion and fire. I got to ask this question, and I don't know if you would have any inside information on this being from there. Was an emergency declaration, state of emergency ever declared?
You bring up a very good point. There hasn't been, and that's why I feel, based on the state of the river right now as it exists, Jeff Landry needs to declare a state of emergency so we can get some help.
Now, procedurally, doesn't he have to be asked? Like, does Robbie Miller need to ask that? And can he, now that the EPA is taken over?
That I don't know, but if hopefully the EPA won't be an impediment to that happening.
Yeah. Well, because, I mean, the reason I ask it is because once you have that state of emergency declared, you're opened up for a little bit of help from the government when it comes to, funding for recovery, repair, cleaning things up, making sure everything is back the way it should be. Without it, you're left to, like, joining a class action lawsuit, which I was reading in the Louisiana Illuminator. It looks like one of those is being put together that y'all could sign up for.
There is.
Mm-hmm.
That's about all I could say.
Well, but you and I both know, and I don't want to back you into this corner, but class action lawsuits don't ever. Lawyers get rich. I'll unapologetically say that lawyers get rich in class action lawsuits. I don't know that y'all ever get made whole.
Well, you bring up a very good point, and this is why I post pictures, but I try to stay away from the dialogue from those that are, well, let's just say that they're not well informed. Somebody made reference to ambulance chasers appearing on the scene. Well, let me counter that by saying nobody's watching out for us, the people that live outside that 1 mile radius.
Right.
So I'm grateful that there are people available to us that are interested in helping us. Yeah, nobody works for free, but I'm grateful that somebody's willing to take up the mantle for us.
Oh, no. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they don't have the right interest in heart.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying when all the dust settles or all the oil settles, that's the way it more than likely plays out. In the meanwhile, local groups getting back together in Tangipahoa Parish.
Yes.
Local groups. What has there been on the togetherness front of citizens getting together?
Well, so those of us who live along the river, we communicate a lot. We share communication, whether it be through videos or pictures that we posted. Mm-hmm. But in terms of aid, that's all being done to that 1 mile radius. I mean, the full effects haven't been felt yet, but it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Well, and that's because it hasn't stopped the flow yet.
Not at all.
That's the part that I don't understand, Pat, is that you're what, a good, how many miles away?
So I am 1 mile north of Highway 22.
Okay. So south of I-12.
Correct.
Yeah. So you've got some good distance between you and this, which means that you are not going to, you're out of sight, out of mind as far as they're concerned, but the reality is in the water behind your house.
Yeah, exactly. The river is actually I've never thought about this because the front of my house, I would say, faces the river. So for all practical purposes, it's in my front yard because
Okay.
I mean I'm right on the water.
Yeah. Kicking information back up the line. Who's there to receive your message?
That's a good question. But I would say that as of right now, the parish president, Robbie Miller, and again, I want to just say thank you to him for him making us feel like we aren't lost in the equation.
More than 2 weeks removed from this, we only got a minute left. More than 2 weeks removed from this, is there any indicator of when the oil will stop?
No indicator, because I mean, while it hasn't rained in a while, the water's a little bit low. You can actually see more of the oil, and what it's doing now is it's so thick that it's attaching itself to the bottom of the river where I live, and just it's like a thick bowl of pudding. That's what you can see whenever I put my paper towels in the water. By the way, my Facebook page is Pat Mashburn Jr. If anybody wants to see any of the samples from really the last 13 or 14 days, you can see the progression.
The ones in the paper towel are the most stand out to me.
Yes.
Because, you can look at the river and see the sheen on top and the darker colors within. But we all know what it looks like to look at a river in South Louisiana. You never know what's a shadow and what's oil.
Right.
So, but when you pull that paper towel back out and you can see it's a black paper towel, it's disgusting and it's unhealthy. And hopefully there will be recourse in the near future.
I hope so too, because I mean, just about everybody that lives on the river has a retriever, some type of water dog.
Yeah.
It's affected our way of life in so many different ways.
As I suspected would happen, as Pat and I kept talking during the break, I asked him if he could stick around for the last segment. Last segment we do the outside in, so this actually fits. Before that, though, got to remind you about the folks at Landmark Bank, founded in 1897 as a community bank, and here in 2025 they remain a community bank. If you live in one of the communities that Landmark Bank serves, and go to landmarkbankla.com to find that list of communities. I can tell you Zachary's in there, Denham's in there, Brewley's in there, a handful of other ones as well. Once you're in that community, you need not just a bank, but a banker. Someone who, throughout your personal banking, can help you with your wants, needs, dreams, and desires. Buying a home, buying a car, stocking away for college for the kids, investment, retirement. They can help walk you through where you are in your phase of life and where you want to be. Conversely, on the business end, they can do that as well. Jumping in that entrepreneurship world, you need a banker. We learned during the PPP process just how important it was to be local, to be community. It's landmarkbankla.com. Pat Mashburn's with us for just a couple more minutes here before we get out. I tell you what, it's time for the outside in. Pat, I appreciate you sticking around. I know we're diving right back into the same topic, but there was a question I had for you in the break that I wasn't able to verbalize in the first segment. So it seems to me that 2+ weeks later, the vacuum of news is news in and of itself.
I agree. I mean, we just want them to tell us something so that we can adequately protect ourselves, but we're given nothing other than how much they've removed from the river near that 1 mile radius.
But how much you've removed means nothing if you don't know how much is in there.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
If I tell my son to pick up his Legos and he picks up 500 Legos, he's not making a dent in the Legos that are on the ground.
No, I had Legos as a kid.
Right. So that's the comp for me there is like, I picked up 500 Legos. Well, that sounds like a lot, but when you got 20,000 of them, it's not even a dent.
No, it's not. And I mean, all that has to happen for me to be reminded of that is just to go out to my dock and look down, and I just see this huge pool of black.
Right. Homework assignment or possible field trip for you. Have you been down to Lake Pontchartrain to see it empty into the into the lake?
I mean, I've been down to Lee's Landing, which feeds right into Lake Pontchartrain, and it's there.
Okay.
I've talked to people that live down there and at the mouth, and they said it's there.
Yeah. Because, I mean, once it gets into the lake, you're talking size and scale and parts per billion that are going to change the equations, or at least the visual, the aesthetic of it overall. But, I mean, if you see that black flowing out into the lake, that's going to be a game changer on so many different fronts.
Yeah. I mean, how does that affect the seafood industry, the oysters, the shrimping, the...
Oh, Lake Pontchartrain crabs. Forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Man, I thank you for sticking around, because that last question I thought was an important one. Is that there's a vacuum of information.
That you are absolutely right. That is frustrating. We hope to get some answers sometime soon.
Keep us posted, man. We will be in touch. He is Pat Mashburn, lives downriver from Smitty Supply.